If you were coming into my office for CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I would immediately start asking questions about your family. Family estrangement is something that is one of the most, I'm going to make up a word here, undiscussed topics in the world of psychology. It's not a topic that we talk much about. And sadly, because of that, we often end up feeling quite confused and not very in tune with what it actually means to be estranged. When you are estranged from your family, you not only experience a host of thoughts and feelings, but your behaviors change, your brain may change, and so too does your stress response. Let's say, for example, if you lived in a household that was pretty traumatic and, you've dealt with that for the past 10 years of your life, and now you hit 18 and you can leave and not have to be, worried about having to connect with family who is abusive, you may get out of that situation and then realize that, oh my God, I have panic attacks. I have depression. I'm unmotivated. I don't have any aspirations for my life. I'm not feeling excited about life. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about family estrangement. But before we jump into that, let me just briefly introduce myself in case you're new. My name is Tamara. I'm internationally and I'm board certified as a trauma therapist. I'm licensed in mental health. I specialize in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma right in my private practice. Let's go ahead and jump in. There's a lot of ways that you can become estranged from your family. And one of the most important ways is known as an emotional cutoff. Now, Murray Bowen, who is an American psychiatrist, he does a lot of work in family therapy. He came up with the term emotional cutoff to describe a situation in which you have intentionally cut off, and maybe even unintentionally in some cases, cut off your emotions from somebody else. And that somebody else may be a parent, it may be a family member that's been harsh to you and cruel and cold to you, or it could even be your very own children. The whole idea of emotional cutoffs is not only to abruptly cut off your emotional reactions and your emotional ties and your emotional responses from the person, but it also disrupts the patterns in which you communicate. That communication can be disrupted largely by you cutting off your emotions. Maybe somebody that you tell everything to and that you've confided in is somebody that you are now clashing with within your family. An emotional cutoff would work by you abruptly ignoring their phone calls, their text messages, their emails to you. And if you're in their presence, you may have this passive aggressive demeanor, right? You may not want to talk. You may not give eye contact. You may not want to verbally engage with anybody around you who's engaging with that family member, right? Let's say, for example, this is your mother and she's very critical. She's very judgmental. You've decided to cut your family off and yourself from your mom. And you just happen to be at the same funeral when you see your mom communicating with your grandmother and your grandpap, and you make up your mind then and there that I'm not going to talk to my grandmother or my grandpap, because what's going to happen is whatever I say to them, she's going to get a whiff of, right? That's emotional cutoff. Another example of that could be, let's say, for example, your mother's a narcissist. You decided to put up a boundary. You don't want to be abused and neglected any longer, so you put up a boundary. In order to help you cope with the fact that you've put up this boundary and you know your mother's probably going to be injured, right? A narcissistic injury can occur, meaning their feelings are hurt, their ego and pride. So let's say that that's you. The best way for you to deal with that situation in your own mind is to cut off all emotional communication. Act like you don't care, ignore text messages, ignore emails, and even ignore eye contact. Now, there are also various ways that you can engage in what's called distancing. Distancing is another form of emotional cutoff, but this is more specifically found in 3 different ways. One is physical distancing, and that means I am completely distancing from you. We're in the same room, but I am not with you. We're in the same area, but I'm not standing next to you. I'm not sitting across from you, and I'm not sitting any way cat-a-corner to you where you can see me out the corners of your eyes, where you can look at me. I'm not going to be anywhere around you. And this is where family estrangement usually begins, right? Because you may feel that you're being abused and triangulated and manipulated by that family member, and the only thing you know to do is run and get on this side of the world world so that you're not hurt and you're not abused any longer. There are also what's known as interactive distancing, meaning that you are distancing your communication with that person. You're not sending them messages. You're not receiving their messages. You're not emailing them. You're not texting them. You're not doing anything that is going to put you in direct communication with this particular individual. It's really interactive distancing, for lack of a better word. And we can title it that for this video. You refuse to interact, so you are distancing by refusing to interact. Your communication style may also be a form of distancing. That's the third part, where you alter your communication style with the person. Maybe you don't tell them personal things anymore. Maybe you just keep it at a very shallow surface level. Maybe you don't go to your dad anymore and talk really happy and kind of involve them in all the good things happening in your world. Maybe you only talk to them when something bad happens in the family. Maybe you only talk to them when you need them the most. So in a sense, with communicative distancing, you're kind of saying, I'm managing my communication with you by altering what I communicate with you about and altering how I give information and messages to you. So let me give you a definition of family estrangement, okay? And a family estrangement, because it's not talked about much, you can go online and find multiple definitions of family estrangement. But the one common definition that I have found to be true is family estrangement can occur emotionally, psychologically, and physically. And it's when you take all of who you are and you go somewhere else far from that other family, and you intentionally, with a goal, cut off communication so that you don't have to be interconnected with this person. If this is your mother, right, you've stopped physically communicating with her. You're not going over to her house. You're not seeing her face to face. Then you may have adjusted your interactions with her, right? You're not going to talk to her unless A, B, and C happens, only on emergencies or only if there's a crisis. And you may have altered how you communicate, so your communicative style. Maybe you only talk about positive things and that's about it. Maybe you only talk about you and your job and not your children and your husband to her, right? So let's say you've done all of that. Now you've decided, I'm going to walk away and I'm going to close that door for the rest of my life. That is family estrangement. So let me tell you that family estrangement really is a process. And sometimes your heart and your mind is over there away while your body is still there with the family. So you may find that you're not as clicked in, as in tuned as maybe you would like to be, or maybe as you think you are, appearing to your family, for example, but your heart and your mind may be way over there. You may think that you are appearing as if you're connected when in reality, you just aren't. So what are some of the signs that you need to just walk away and not even deal with this family member that you have been estranged from? Well, I often suggest that you walk away if the conflict is overwhelming, it is perpetual, and there's constant triangulation and manipulation. You can't make a situation work with someone if you are not on the same page. If you are feeling hurt and abused and neglected and used and the list goes on, the last thing you want to do is stay connected to a family member. So you may find yourself really being conflicted, right? Should I stay and deal with this because other people have it worse than me? Or should I stay and deal with this because that person has a good side to them as well? Or should I go because I know that's the best thing for me to do? Should I go because I know that this person is not going to remain the same for long? So you're caught between a crossfire, right? I often encourage my clients to, number one, do what's best for them. And number two, come out of that conflictual mind, because you're never going to find the right answer. You're never going to find that perfect answer that's going to give you what you need. So make the most wise decision. How do you know that you should walk away? There's perpetual and continual conflict. There's manipulation, there's triangulation, and there's no ultimate truth or loyalty. If you're dealing with a pathological liar, then you may want to walk away from that family member, right? Because a pathological liar often lies for no reason. They also lie without a purpose, without an intention. So sometimes those lies may just come out of their mouth and you may catch it and think, what? Why would you even lie about that, right? But some people do. Family members or, anybody that we deal with in the world who engages in pathological lying, sometimes it's become such a habit without any benefit to the liar that they can't help it. They're just sitting there lying. And that is wasting not only your time and your energy, but you're also wasting, your life just trying to understand this individual who's probably lying at this point. If you've already gone no contact and it has made things worse, that should validate your reason for leaving in the first place. So let's say, for example, you decided not to answer their phone calls, their emails, their text messages, they're blowing up your phone, the list goes on. Let's say that's happening to you. If you going no contact for a short period of time has caused that family member to blow up and act really as if they have absolutely no boundaries and no respect for you, then that should validate the very reason why you're walking away. And it should give you the courage that you need to keep going. A relationship that is labile or rigid, right? A situation where that family member is labile, meaning they're like a roller coaster in their moods, the way they think, the way they behave, or a family member who's really rigid. You can't make any mistakes. You can't try to make things up to them. It's just absolutely cut off, right? This family member actually engages in the world in black and white terms. They're polarized. They are never looking at the gray, right? The maybes and the what ifs, and they're not giving you flexibility. They're just very rigid and straight to the point. Or a family member who is like a roller coaster. You might want to walk away and keep walking away from somebody like that because they're not going to change. Most people who are rigid often have personality disorders and may not get any better than where they are because this is how they function unless they take medication, go to therapy, or they really feel the need to make a change. If you come from a family or a childhood that is very, very dysfunctional and highly reactive, then perhaps family estrangement is what needs to happen. You don't need to go through as an adult what you went through as a child. And that's where I'm going to leave that. Sexual abuse or rape, emotional blackmail or emotional extortion, as we call it. Here's the definition on the screen. And also, too, you don't want to forget about emotional incest, right? Being the surrogate wife or the surrogate husband to your parent, or being the surrogate mother and father of a household. It's just not okay. These are very unhealthy places to be in with a family, with a parent, right? So emotional extortion or emotional blackmail, emotional incest, rape, or sexual abuse, walk away. It's not going to get any better. Family members who ignore your boundaries, this can happen in all sorts of situations, and it's something that actually happens in most cases. But here's where I often caution people. If you are growing up in a family and you've experienced this for many years where boundaries were never respected, consider it an intergenerational problem and expect that your boundaries are also going to be walked all over and disrespected. It's something that's likely to happen to you if it happened to your parent, if it happened to a sibling, if it happened to your father. Just be ready for it. You want to consider playing mind games. If you have a family member who plays with your mind, says and does things to get you in a certain position mentally and psychologically, and nothing actually happens the way that they say it or the way that they promise it or the way that you kind of foresaw it, then there's a problem there. This person may also start pulling in people into the situation. Let's say, for example, some kind of feud you're having with your parent. Let's say your father's the triangulator, the manipulator. He may go and pull your brother into a scenario just so that you can feel ganged up upon. But, they may hide behind the guise of, I just told your brother because I have nobody else to talk to. Or they may say something like, I thought maybe your brother could be helpful. He could be a neutral participant here. When that kind of stuff happens, you want to pause and hit the brakes and say, wait a minute, what is this really about? Is this about this person being right? Is this about manipulating me? Is this about triangulating? What is this? And if you arrive at an answer, that isn't a positive one or a balanced one or a fair one, walk away. I also try to help my clients see that if they find themselves grieving on the inside, a loving family, and you're going through the stages of grief and loss once you do walk away, then that's a serious matter. And most of the time therapy can help with that. Grieving the loss of a loving family really is this. I've walked away from my dysfunctional, unhealthy family and I'm over this way. And I've learned that there are times when I'm in denial. There are times when I'm angry, times when I'm depressed. There's times when I want to gamble and I want to say, I want to gamble and bargain. And I want to say, well, maybe if I change A, B, and C, my family will get better, right? Maybe it really is my fault. Maybe I need to make these changes. And then there are times where I feel acceptance, like I'm okay being over there away from my family. If you're going through those cycles a lot, then that may be a clear sign that on the inside, there's something seriously wrong in the family dynamic. It's not just you. When you recognize that something is seriously wrong in the family dynamic, you can walk away, and you should walk away. That is your proof those stages of loss and grief that you are experiencing, that is proof that something is terribly wrong in the family. Being in limbo emotionally, right? You stay, then you go, then you stay, then you're in more limbo. Those are also issues that you want to consider. Sometimes those can be clear signs that something is going on. You're in limbo. One minute you want to love them, next minute you want to run. That says something is disjointed here. There's nothing here that's firm, where I can trust, where I can feel loved, where I can feel taken care of. I feel like I need to run most days, even though there are times I still love that family member. You also want to give thoughtful and careful consideration to the decisions that you're going to make here. You don't want to just jump into this because somebody offended you or because somebody doesn't accept something that you want them to accept. You truly want to take your time and be very, very, very astute and careful in considering family estrangement. Once you walk away from your family, you want to keep in mind that sometimes going back into that situation with a family member may never happen. Once you become estranged, those bonds are broken, whether that's abruptly or a little over time. And in order to go back into your family and fit like a glove, right? Like a glove on a hand, there's a lot of processes that needs to happen in between you leaving and wanting to go back, if you know what I mean. So you want to be really careful in making the decision here, because it's not like you're just walking away and you're closing the door and you've got peace of mind. It's a whole entire process. And if you want to learn a little bit more about this video, click here from my video that talks about, well, you want to click here, but here's the thumbnail that talks about family estrangement and all the pieces of that puzzle. And you may want to check this video out right here as well, which talks a little bit more in depth about walking away from your family. Thank you so much for being with me in today's video, guys. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and bell button if you want to stick around and get more videos like this, and join me in my live chats every Friday evening. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.